Hey everybody, welcome to My Physical World. I'm going to begin a series here on remote sensing, and we are going to be using QGIS to do some image analysis. Probably be more at the basic intermediate level, but the first thing that you need to know is actually how to get some satellite data. Well, first, there are basically two avenues of acquiring data, and it's really good to use both of them in your analysis. One is the United States Landsat images, which has the distinction of being the longest Earth observation program on the planet. Landsat 1 was launched and initiated in 1972, and there has been constant coverage of the Earth since then. Okay. There's never been a time that we didn't have Landsat images. Okay, so you're talking, what is that? 53 years of continuous monitoring of the Earth. You can't beat it anywhere, and that's going to go on for as long as I know. Okay. So you have the Landsat program, which is the United States. Also, you have the European Space Agency's Sentinel satellites, which basically do the same thing as Landsat. You might find some of the data in the Sentinel program, and I'm going to be specifically talking about in this series Sentinel 2, which is comparable to Landsat. However, you might find that in some instances you can get higher resolution data in the Sentinel program than you can with the Landsat. Okay, let's talk about the Landsat resolution. 1 pixel on the screen in a Landsat is 30 meters, so you're talking 90-ish, between 90 and 100 feet, okay, per pixel. Not very tight, but the use of both programs actually is to get an aerial, a regional perspective on what's going on the globe, such as land use and wildfires, some damage assessment, as long as it covers a large area because of the resolution. The Sentinel data actually comes in 3 different resolutions. You can get in the visible light, and some IR, you can get images in the 10-meter resolution, which is about 32 feet or so. You can also get 20-meter resolution data, which, okay, so the 10-meter covers, I think, 5 bands, maybe 4 bands, 4 or 5 bands. The 20-meter covers 13 bands, I believe. And then you also have the 60-meter stuff, which is even more generalized data. Okay, so this video, I'm just going to take you to both the Landsat data, which is distributed by the USGS, the United States Geological Survey. And then we're going to go to the Copernicus portal for your Sentinel data. Okay, So there was a time, and I'm not really sure if it's still here or not. Let me do some minimizing here real quick. All right. So there was a time that you could get the Sentinel data from the USGS, okay, from the same place that you get the Landsat data. But they have since discontinued that partnership because, well, first of all, Copernicus or Sentinel has a really good site as well. Okay, so what we're going to do is I am at earthexplorer.usgs.gov, and this is the portal for selecting or finding satellite data, Landsat data, and I'm specifically only talking about Landsat and Sentinel 2 Alpha and 2 Bravo. Okay, so Landsat currently has 2 satellites. It has Landsat 8, and which was, I think, launched, if I believe, launched in 2013. Might have been 2015, but I think it was 2013. And 2018, I believe, Landsat 9 was launched. Okay, so for a while, the Landsat program only had one of each. They had multiple satellites up at the same time, but they were different. They were on different orbital planes. Okay, but because Landsat 5, 7, and 8 were all up there at the same time, but as they decommissioned older satellites, it left some not gaps, but day gaps, okay, where you couldn't revisit the site in a consistent manner, okay. But anyway, now there is 2 Landsat satellites, and Landsat 9 was commissioned to the same orbital path as Landsat 8, and it was oriented on the opposite side of the planet to speed up the revisit time. Okay, does that make sense? I hope it makes sense. All right, so now you have Landsat 8 and 9 working in tandem. Now, 9 is newer technology. Some of the images might be crisper. They might be slightly different in terms of what you'll see on the screen every once in a while, but they're basically the same thing. Okay, you're not going to lose any data, lose any information, because Landsat 8's a few years older. Okay, but 8 and 9 work in tandem together. Okay, so we're talking about Landsat 8 and 9. All right, so if you will, in this tutorial, go to earthexplorer.usgs.gov, and it will bring you up to the Earth Explorer screen, which should start out with a map of the United States. Now, we're simply going to point and click and answer some questions to get the data that you want. Okay, so if you use your mouse, you guys shouldn't, I'm not here to do a computer tutorial, so just use your scroll wheel and your mouse and zoom into an area that you're interested. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to come down here and I'm going to concentrate on Mount St. Helens. Okay, so the Mount St. Helens scene comes up. Okay, and you can zoom in, zoom out, whatever you want. This kind of gives you the lay of the land, and I believe, if I'm correct, I don't know how often they update the reference screen, but this is based on aerial photography, okay, and satellite imagery. It's not Landsat, but anyway. So let's zoom in here to Mount St. Helens. And I'm going to take my mouse and I'm going to simply click my left mouse button for I want this location. So I want any path and row of satellite data that includes where this spot is. Then you're going to come over to the fill in the blank portion of your query and notice that it has put a latitude and longitude and it will have a red X. So if you make a mistake, you can click the red X and that spot will go away and you can reselect the location. Okay, but I was correct, so I'm going to select right in the middle of the caldera of Mount St. Helens, and then you need to give it a date range. Sometimes if like there was an event or something, you want to try to get the closest image to whatever that event was. Okay, so if I wanted the May 18th, 1980 data, okay, I would have to know that back in 1980, which Landsat was around, okay, and that happened to be, I think, Landsat 3, okay, 5 might have been up, I can't remember the actual date, but anyway, but you'll need a date range of images to get a catalog. All right, and so what I'm going to do is, by default, it usually does a month back based on the date that you start your search. Okay, so today is June 20th, 2025, so it's going to go by default back a month, and I'm going to use that just for this. But if you want to change the date, you just click the calendar and click on the date that you want to go back. Okay, so I changed it from the 19th of May to the 20th May. Same way with the ending date. So when you get your coordinate and your date range, you're going to go next to data sets. So just click this data set key down here, and then you're going to simply go to the Landsat tab and expand that. Now, there are different products that you can order, and I say order, queue online that you can download them. Okay, you got the Collection 2, Level 1, Level 2, and Level 3. Okay, I normally use the Collection 2, Level 2. Okay, sometimes I get into Level 3 depending on what analysis that I want to work. But we're going to, it's different grades of post-processing is what it is. Okay, so Level 1 doesn't have it doesn't have the top of the atmosphere, bottom of the atmosphere, all that calculated, reflectance and all that kind of stuff. Okay, it's relatively raw. It used to be this was all you can get, and you had to do that post processing on your own. Okay, but they have done a lot of the post processing for you. So most of the time you're going to use Level 2. Collection 2, Level 2. Collection 3, they've added new things in there, and if you open the expansion of each one of these, you'll notice that, like for Collection 2, Level 2, I get Landsat 8 and 9 as a choice, Landsat 7 ETM, and TM is thematic mapper, or Landsat 4 through 5. Okay, you'll have to look for archive stuff if you want anything previous, which would be Landsat Legacy. Okay, Landsat Legacy will give you some of the older satellites. So that would be the MSS 1 through 5 usually. Okay, so if you want it, like for Mount St. Helens, we'd have to go to the Legacy in order to get something that old. Okay, but we're looking at modern days. If most of the time you want 8 and 9, which is the first choice, so click that box. But let's come up here to the collection 2 level 3, and you'll notice for Landsats 4 through 9 you can get dynamic surface water, burned areas, fractional snow coverage for the area. So they for the level 3, there's some analysis that they have or they did for you in order to get like burned area and that kind of stuff. So if you need some of that data, it's available. You don't have to write your code to do your own analysis and some of that stuff. Okay, but we're going to just concentrate on collection 2, level 2, and I click the Landsat 8 and 9. Let's see what they got for the new stuff. Okay, now remember 8 and 9 are working in tandem together. Okay, so you're going to get a 8-day return to the same spot when they're working in tandem. The revisit for one satellite is 16 days. All right, so we have Mount St. Helens selected. We've gone over to data sets and selected C2, L2, and we want Landsat 8 and 9. All right, then the next step is simply click the results button, and you are going to get a catalog list of images that meet the criteria that you've put in. Okay, sometimes this might take a little while, sometimes it doesn't. Okay, now you're going to get a picture, a thumbnail of the image, and you're just going to scroll through there until you find the image. Right up here, you're going to see LC09. All right, and then if we come down here, let's see if there's any. I think Landsat 8 has been having some issues lately, and so the acquisitions are getting kind of sparse. All right, but Landsat 9 is still functioning fully. But you're going to get this big long catalog number, and I'm not going to really go into that too much, but the important part to look at is this string right here and this string right here. Okay, so the satellite acquired the data on this date, June 17th, 2025. All right, this was when the satellite flew over the location. The collection 2, level 2 data was created on the 18th and published to the download service. Okay, so it's kind of like the acquisition date and the post-processing date. Okay, and then you get some other information. I believe you get row and path. Okay, right here, row and path. You get path and the row. Okay, the path is this, is the orbital path of the satellite, and then the row is each individual image that is scanned. All right, so you're gonna look at this. You're pretty much going to look at row and path, especially if you want your data to be, you know, maybe you got a satellite image that was taken 5 years ago and you want the exact same spot. You're going to look at row and path to make sure that those two are sitting on top of each other. Okay, but it's really helpful to look at the thumbnail for something that's very distinctive that you're going to need to be able to say right away, I know I'm not going to get any information from that. If you'll notice that this kind of has that cerulean blue look, that light blue, well, those are clouds. Okay, so you know that this image right here is pretty cloudy, so it's not going to do you any good. It's not going to see the ground for you to do any analysis. But if you click on it, you're going to get a preview image. and notice all the clouds and snow that's in the area. Actually, that's actually snow, not clouds. Okay, I'm sorry. The cerulean is snow and ice. Duh. White would be clouds. Okay, so here we're looking at an area that has a lot of snowfall, and that was June 17th. All right. So you're going to look at this, and if you come down in the list, okay, if you scroll, it gives you the time and date that that actual satellite went over that area. Okay, so at what is that, 3:30 in the afternoon, and it only took it 32 seconds to take that image. Okay, but you look here at the cloud cover, land cloud cover. All right, it's only 6.95% cloud coverage in the entire scene. Okay, so that was snow and ice that we're looking at that. So if this is what you wanted, okay, now we got this screen by just clicking on the thumbnail. If I close this and I actually want to download it, okay, I'm going to hit this little download button. Now, before you can download, you have to be logged in. If you look up here, My Physical World is logged in. That's my username for this system. Okay, and I have a username and password. So you create an account. Okay, it doesn't cost you anything. So create an account, make sure that you're logged in before you start your trying to download your data, or it's not going to have, the download button is not going to be activated if you're not signed in. So let's come down here, and so we have some snowmelt here. Let's see, it's different row and path and row. Okay, but let's say we want this image. I don't know why, but let's say we want this image. You're going to click the download button, and that's going to bring up this options, this download options. All right. If I'm not going to talk about bulk downloads and all that kind of stuff, okay? That's for scheduling downloads. We can talk about that in another video, okay? But if we want a level 2 surface reflectance, you can select this stuff, all right? If you want surface temperatures, which, by the way, the Sentinel data you won't be able to get, okay? You would select whatever's right here. But if you want to see the individual packages to download, you're going to do product options. Okay? And most of the time for my quick analysis, I download everything at once. Okay? All the bands, all the trigger files, all that kind of stuff. I download everything in one file, and most of these are between the 800 megabytes and 1.2 gigs, okay, depending on the scene. Okay, so if I click this, I'm not going to do it for this video, but if I click this, it starts the download process and starts downloading to my computer. But you can, if you wanted to, download each individual file. That everything in this list right here is in this button right here. Or you can do, if you were just looking at, maybe I just wanted to download a couple of the files, all right, I can do that here, all right, in this case. But what I find in this list is there's no, it's easier to do everything all at once if you wanted to, but if you notice down here it says SRB1, that's band 1, band 2, band 3, band 4, and all the way up from band 7, and then you have the thermal band of band 10, okay? I don't see band 11. I don't see band 11. Okay, is band 11 there? It might be there. I don't see it. But anyway, you can, but all of these files are in the big button at the top. So if you want everything, do that. When you click that, it will automatically start downloading to your machine. Okay? So that's how to download Landsat data. Let's close this and let's go to Copernicus, which you can see the address up here, Copernicus. There we go. Sorry. .eu. All right. That is the Sentinel address. I think there's a link in the description. All right. So I'm going to start my query back over, but kind of like Earth Explorer, it gives you a world map view. And I'm going to come out here. All right, and we're going to go to the United States, just because I want to show you doing the same location, right? Okay, if you remember, the date of our pretend download for the Landsat data was the 17th of June. Okay, so for these things aren't on the same path. Okay, they're not on the same path, which if they were, they would crash into each other up in space. They have a different orbit. All right. I hope that was self-explanatory. All right, so by default, when you're in the you'll come up in the visualization. If you wanted to download these products directly, it's kind of like the built-in stuff that Landsat has. They already have some built-in setups for you as well, such as the NDVI, your vegetation index, false color, moisture indexes, your shortwave IR stuff, your water indexes, all that kind of stuff. If you only want that information, you can just basically click your spot, click that thing, click that thematic, it's kind of like a quick and dirty way of, it's kind of like the post-processing. You can do that right here. But I usually don't do that. I actually go over to the search, okay? So I'll go over to the search tab and I'll select Sentinel-2. See, notice all the different satellites that Copernicus says. They have different uses, okay? But I'm just talking about simple vegetation type studies, that kind of stuff. Visual impact studies of natural disasters or something like that. I'll use Sentinel-2. Now, Sentinel-2, it has Sentinel Alpha, Sent2 Alpha, and 2 Bravo, okay? Those are the two that are working in tandem. They're both Sentinel-2, but one's Alpha, one's Bravo, all right? But there's also 2 types of sensor data that gets collected and post-processed, okay? You got the L1C, which is L1C is top of the atmosphere correction, and L2A is bottom of the atmosphere correction. I use L2A more than I do L1C, and the reason is I do a lot of vegetation type of studies, and the bottom correction is better for doing bottom stuff. Okay, if you want them both, click them both. If you only want to see the bottom of the atmosphere corrections done, go ahead and do the L2 alpha. All right, so I got my product selected. Now I need to set up 2 things: where I want my study and when I want my study from. All right. So here it's a little different. You do your product first, and then you do your geography and time. So let's kind of zoom in here to Washington State. and find Mount St. Helens. Here is the Columbia River. There's Mount St. Helens right there. There's Spirit Lake. Looks like a glove. All right. And we're going to kind of zoom in. Now, one thing I like about Sentinel data is they actually show you cloud cover in your search. Okay. Like if I kind of zoom into my area, it actually shows you cloud cover. If I look out the window, we have kind of a thin overcast sky, okay? But it will show, it takes some time for the screen to catch up to you, but it shows real-time cloud cover. So if you're looking for something that happened today and you get lucky and the satellite actually went over that day, you can right away tell if it was cloudy or not. But we're going to zoom in, and here is Mount St. Helens again. Okay, it looks a lot different than the Landsat one did. But what image they post is, okay, so this was definitely in the winter months because there's a lot of snowfall on the ground. This is Spirit Lake, Mount St. Helens, blew that, okay. So now we're going to mark our geography. So you're going to come over here to this little pin, and you're going to click that pin, and you're going to drop it where you want it. Okay, so I dropped it right in the crater, caldera, whatever you want, of Mount St. Helens. Now I need to give it a date range. So I come back over to the left, and here's my date range, 11/1 of 2024 to 11/30 of 2024. Well, I did a search not too long ago for a volcano in Indonesia, and this was the date range that I entered in. So I remembered the last date range. So we're going to click here. We're just going to click inside the date box, and we're going to come back to today, which is, whoops. Let's go to June. And how come from? All right, how come I can't select my year? Okay, hold on, let me figure this out. Okay, I had to do the until first. So I do the until, and then I can select 2025. And we're going to select today, June 20th. And then I can come up here and click the date and change that to 2025. And let's make this May 20th, 2025. So I have the same time period as I did for the Landsat. But if you don't see the date, make sure that you go to the until and change the date there, because there's a logic. And then with Sentinel, you can actually say what time during the day. So if you want to be more specific, but they go over at a certain time of the day, every 12 days. So you don't really need to do the hours and minutes if you didn't want to. I never do. Okay, so we have Sentinel-2 data, and we have our date range, and we have our geography. Then you simply hit search, and it will take a few seconds depending on your date range. Okay, if you had a year date range, it's going to take longer. All right, now what is different about the Landsat download and the Sentinel download? You're going to get these boxes, and see how they kind of flicker, but it really depends on where you click. You can kind of see a ghost image right here that the difference that of Sentinel and Landsat, Sentinel will give you a partial path, because it's going to give you every scene that contains this Mount St. Helens, whether it was off to the side one side or the other, or whether it was fully encased in an image scene. Okay, so sometimes you might get the date of the event that you're doing a study, and it's just off a little bit. It's off, but it's still visible. I did that today with Liwatobi Laki. There wasn't a straight down of the area, but I could get it from the neighboring scene. Okay, so with Landsat, you don't get that. It doesn't give you a partial. It doesn't tell you all the scenes that all scenes that particular dot is in. Okay, Sentinel does, which is really kind of nice. Okay, you kind of have to guess with Landsat. Okay, it's not this path. Is it the path before? Okay, you have to guess at it. But Sentinel puts it right in your face. All right, and then if you look, notice this black area right over here in the thumbnail. Okay, that's this triangle right here that doesn't include Mount St. Helens. Okay, so they took that out for you, but Mount St. Helens appears over here. Okay, and then when you have a full screen just like this, that means that is the main path and row. Okay, and so you just go, just like Landsat, you can hit the information button right here, and you'll get a preview of that that data. Okay. Now, if I'm remembering, oh, and this gives you the blue box of everything. Everything you see in the scene is contained in this blue box. All right. Now, you can download single files just like you did with Landsat if you wanted to open that up, and it will list all the different single files. This right here is the directory structure of what's in the big download file. Okay, just like Landsat. Landsat had all the individual files, but yet it had that one button at the top where you can download all of them. Okay, Copernicus does the same thing with their Sentinel data. Okay, and then you just, except you have to go into the directory tree and select the file that you want. Okay. Now I'm trying to think. MSL. I can't remember if there was a cloud index. Yeah. Does it tell you the cloud coverage? I can't remember. Yeah, right there. Okay, so in this particular scene, it's 24% cloud coverage. Okay, and you can see the clouds. They're big white puffy things, right? Okay, so if you want to see how much cloud coverage, you go to Product and look at the metadata, find the cloud coverage, and find out if that cloud coverage is in your range of acceptance. But let's say everything is good. I'm good with all of that. You're simply just going to push this download button. Okay, now if I did, I'm not going to, but if I did click the download button, this box should go away, and you will see a downloading process ribbon going across the image that you selected. Okay, so that's the basics of downloading Landsat data and Sentinel data. Okay, the next video that we're going to see is we're going to have something downloaded, and we're going to bring it, show you how to bring that Landsat and Sentinel data into QGIS. Hey, subscribe to the channel, please. And most importantly, hit that notification bell so you know when these videos are uploaded. Like and comment. You can dislike if you want. I do care, but I don't care. But either hit a thumbs up or a thumbs down. The algorithm's going to see the interaction. Anyway, I'm preferring a thumbs up if you like the video, and make comments in the video, because the algorithm, I'm not blessed by the algorithm, by the way. I'm a small channel and I need your help. So comment, that helps the algorithm see the interaction between you and me. Also, if you feel inclined to support what I do on this channel with my analysis and stuff like that, tutorials, buymeacoffee.com/myphysicalworld. And if you're interested in some of the oil painting I do, visit me at christopherdio.com. And I will see you guys in the next video. See you later.